Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to 2CTV, your global news channel. I'm Maya 2C, and this is your latest update from British politics, which has been a little bit busy today. Earlier this morning, we reported that Ben Habib launched a new political party, Advance UK. But we have an even bigger news now because yet another political legend has now launched what I would call a political revolution, a political movement in order to bring back sanity into the United Kingdom after being let down by the political establishment. We are talking about the lovely Rupert Lowe, who's going to be joining me in about a minute on this channel. He earlier on announced the creation of Restore Britain. Now, we're going to talk about this with Rupert in a second. Of course, we're going to get your reaction as well. But the first post that's been done on X by the Restore Britain account, as expected, extremely solid and robust. Every single one needs to go, it says. Deport all illegal migrants. Nearly 2 million illegal migrants live in Britain, costing up to £10 billion a year. So the first idea that's been promoted by Restore Britain is about, of course, sorting out not just the borders, but also the situation inside the country, because we still have so many people who are illegal, and no political party right now is actually even proposing a policy to remove them. Anyway, let's go to Rupert Lowe. Let's bring him on. Hello, how are you?
I'm well, Maya. How are you? Nice to be back on your show.
Yes, and once again, for the second time, you're blurry, and but it's fine. I'm blaming the Wi-Fi in Parliament. Are you in Parliament? You're in Parliament, right?
Pretty close to Parliament.
Pretty close to Parliament. Are you in a bunker plotting? I'm guessing that's why.
You're Churchill. Not in a bunker. No, we haven't quite got that far yet.
Amazing. Well, welcome back, Rupert. Obviously, recently we had a chat on this channel about everything that happened to you personally. But I think now you're taking things to the next level, because a lot of people have been hungry for some sort of change in this country. And I think when it comes to political parties, I think there is no perfection, but I think a lot of the parties have been letting people down. So tell us about why you decided to do this. What is Restore Britain and what you're promoting?
Well, as you quite rightly say, I underwent a sort of political assassination, which I wasn't expecting. And I continued with my work in Parliament as an independent MP. And what's become clear, I think, to both me and my team is that the British people are, I think, in need of not a new party. There are plenty of parties. What they're in need of is a sort of unity of purpose, which we decided involved a movement rather than a party. And that way, I think Britain's gone so badly wrong, and it continues to go wrong. I think the state's got too big, and I think that the decent, hard-working people of Britain are being let down on a daily basis. They're very polite people. They're actually very quiet people. They're quite introvert, many of them. But I think what we want to do is give the bedrock of decent people, who I strongly believe still exist in this country, an opportunity to unite round our movement. And through the movement, we will have then the power to influence the way in which we're governed to a far greater extent. Because in the end, the organs of power up in Westminster, I liken them, they're easy to buy, and they're bought by people's vote. Because in the end, what I think we've lost sight of up in London is the fact that they are the servant and the people of the master. And I think it's time for the people who have been silently and in many ways, suffering this decline in Britain. They've now got a chance to join our movement, make their voice heard, and collectively then, hopefully we can right the ship and start to imbue the whole place with more common sense and more of the values which I was brought up with when I was young, in what is and should be the best place to live in the world. But right now it's going badly off track, and collectively we've got to take control of it. So if people don't want the movement, then they're not going to sign up for it, and it'll go nowhere. But I think there is a huge appetite for people to participate now in policies which is going to change the way they're governed, bring some common sense back, and make everybody's lives better. And we're going to start issuing policies which people can, through our direct democracy app, which we've now got as well, which
Cool.
be able to input into that, and we can consult and get to the truth, and then hopefully influence and eventually change for the better the way in which people are able to live their lives.
So you
That's the
say
plan.
that this is obviously not a political party in that sense, and it's a movement. But obviously you've been critical, and I've been critical of all the mainstream existing political parties for letting people down. So does this mean the new platform that you created, is it for people who are not part of any parties, or are you actually happy to get people from different parties who support different parties to actually
I think,
unite and get
Myra, it's
behind it?
completely cross-party. It's completely cross-party. That's the whole point of it. Because I don't think, good or bad policy is necessarily the preserve of any one party. But what we've got to do is unite people in the vision that they want to see, so that the country can be run in the interests of the people, not in the interests of a small minority in Westminster, or a small group of people running quangos and running other government-related organisations, which have become less and less accountable. And I include the judiciary in that. I include the police in that. Again, the police are servants of the people, but they've become almost above reproach. And local councils are the servants of the people, but they've become almost dictatorial in the way in which they treat their constituents. And that runs right the way through the governing classes of Britain. And I think what they need to do is learn a bit of humility now. And the only way that's going to happen is if people sign up to the movement and show that they care. And we can then represent their views and make sure that they're not overlooked, which individually they are, collectively they will not be.
So interesting because historically, especially the last few decades, what influenced political parties, especially in the 20th century, was very successful think tanks that were affiliated with parties. Margaret Thatcher, obviously, her side set up a think tank. They did some research. They would come up with policy ideas. They would give it to the party, and then Margaret Thatcher, as Prime Minister, would implement it. That was the case. And I did start noticing over the last 10, 20 years that think tanks in Westminster either have all become wishy-washy or the same, or basically they're not really actually coming up with anything original. So am I correct to think that what this sounds like, apart from being a grassroots movement as well, it seems like a people's think tank, right? So, that to represent what they come up with, as long as obviously it's sensible, right?
Well, you're absolutely right about Margaret Thatcher. I actually used to support an organisation called the IEA, which was the Institute of Economic Affairs, which was a think tank. And indeed, I think most good government is driven by good policy. So what we want to do is to focus on the policies that we're going to bring to bear. And I think most people have got very bored of listening to people speaking in Parliament and to their leaders saying they're going to do this and saying they're going to do that, doing a few interviews in a radio car, and then a week later they've moved on and forgotten what they said. So it's all about actual delivery. What we're about is delivery, not just about voice. I always like to say, watch what the hands are doing, not what the mouth is saying. And in the same way that we raised the money for the crowdfunder for the rape gang inquiry, because the government was singularly failed to do what was necessary, and now we've got a statutory inquiry. We're going to continue with our inquiry to keep the government honest, because as I think you know, I don't believe the government ever marks its homework correctly, and they are marking their own homework after all. Equally with Lucy Connolly, which I think is another huge miscarriage of justice, whether you blame her legal aid lawyers for giving her the wrong advice and pleading guilty, and not only guilty but guilty to the wrong category of offence, or whether whether you blame the legal system for incorrectly, in my view, punishing somebody for an incorrect or an ill-advised post on social media, which didn't, in my view, incite violence. It simply said she didn't care if there was some violence. That is a very different legal issue. But I think we do things, and what we want to do is allow the British people to say what they want, and we can then help them enact it. And that's got
Yeah.
to be the theme that carries through if sensible government is going to deliver next time round, because there's so much mess. I always liken it to the Augean stables, which Hercules had to divert the river to clean out because there was so much muck in it. Well, there's a lot of muck which is built up around the way in which we're governed, and that all needs to be sorted out. Now, look, if
Yes.
people don't agree with me, they're not going to join up. If they do agree with me, I urge them to join up, because
Yes.
together we're going to be able to make a difference. And
Yeah, of
that's
course. Yeah.
why a party, a party was the wrong thing. A movement is the right thing. Now, that doesn't stop a movement becoming involved in some form of party, but what it does first, and I think puts, if you like, puts the doesn't put the cart before the horse. We want to show there's a need for it, or people believe there's a need for it, and then they can help us guide them to where they want to go. And I think that's the essence of what we're trying to achieve here.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people were waiting for you to start a new party, and obviously you've already explained that. But I'm guessing because you're a business person and you probably saw what has been working even now over the last few weeks and months for you. You single-handedly started many campaigns in Parliament and outside, and you've actually did cross-party. You've had certain people from Reform actually even supporting it, and signing your petitions and everything else. So I think you realize this is the best way to actually go forward. But you know there is this issue of people. I think everything has become so black and white over, especially the last few years, where people always assume that, oh, we just need a political party leader, like a father figure, like a prime minister, to be our savior. So that's why every time someone shiny comes on, like next time, they're like, oh, okay, we're going to get behind this one. Like 2019, oh, let's get behind Boris. 2024, let's get behind Nigel, blah, blah, blah. And I think people might be like, okay, so what does that mean? What do I do with this movement? Because people are like black and white. They're like, we just need a father figure to follow. So what is the next step? What should people expect from this movement? You mentioned, obviously, people will come up with ideas and you will
Well,
influence politics.
nothing's black or white. Nothing's black or white. It's never black or white. But what I think is important, the important message is, it doesn't matter whether you're a Reform member, whether you're a Tory member, whether you're a Labour member, whether you're a Lib Dem. I mean, whether you're a Green even. I mean, there may be a few Greens who want some sensible policy, but we'll find out. What we want to do is unite people in a common purpose. We're all in this together. It's our country. And we all know it's going badly wrong. And what I think we offer people is a chance to join up and unite in a common sense approach to improving the way in which Britain is governed. And it's that simple. It's not rocket science. I mean, some people find it difficult to understand the difference between a movement and a political party. I think it's quite clear. We've got plenty of parties, but those parties are not performing in the way they should be performing. So
Yeah.
what we're trying to do is unite those people who want to live in a country that's governed better, governed more fairly, has less state and more private sector, has more freedom and less diktat, and allows people to pursue their lives and succeed in the way they want to succeed, not the way in which the state tells you should succeed. So this is my vision. I'm probably too old to be doing this. I'm certainly, it's not something I plan to be doing, but somebody's got to stand up and act, if you like, as the lightning rod. Because
Yeah.
if we don't change, in my view, by 2029, I don't think we're going to have much of a country left. And it's not going to be a country which I think the young are going to be able to flourish, and people are going to be able to live their dreams, which is what we want. And you've seen
Yeah.
the example. If you want an example, look at Argentina. I was talking about it earlier this afternoon. 100 years of socialism destroyed the Argentinian people. You know, £15,000 a year is a high salary in Argentina. The difference between them and us is they now want freedom, they want opportunity, they want to be able to pursue their own careers. Here, we've got a system that's been built up on welfare. It's been built up on people's votes being bought. And at the end of the day, people are going to have to now wake up and I think the sensible ones are now going to have to fight for their country, because life isn't one big handout. Life is about a system which rewards people who work hard. It supports people who need support, but it certainly doesn't give people who don't deserve to be given things
Yes.
lots of goodies in order to buy their vote. So we just want our country back, basically. And
Yeah.
if people
Yeah.
agree with me, I'm putting this forward. We will welcome people from all political parties in the interest of achieving a better governed Britain. That's what we want.
With this new cross-party movement, you are not helping your reputation, because you've been known by Zia Yusuf and the mainstream media that you are supposed to be a divisive figure. You're supposed to be a separatist. What are you doing, uniting people? Anyway, there is a couple of reaction in the live chat. I just want to get there before you go.
I've always united people. You know, I run lots of businesses. I've never had an issue with people. I love people,
Yeah,
and I like uniting people. And at the end of the day,
yeah.
let's hope Britain unites pretty quickly, because we're dining in the last chance saloon, and we haven't got long now.
Yes, I mean, I agree. You did that in the business world, although as an actual the main squad of Southampton, it wasn't that united. But Southampton FC, it could have. Although it's not your
Southampton,
fault.
when I left them in 2006, I was in rude health, financially strong. I went
Yes.
back and saved them a couple of years later, but by then they'd been very badly mismanaged. So I
Yeah,
left them
yeah,
with the stadium, I left them with the youth academy,
sure.
and ultimately they have got now, if you like, the raw materials for future success, which they
Yeah.
didn't sell. So I
Yeah.
feel very proud of what I achieved at Southampton.
Yeah, and no, I agree. You still got attacked for some reason anyway. You always got insulted. And although you have a thick skin, so it's fine.
I
Um,
got attacked, but you know that's life. You don't change things without upsetting some people. So you
yeah,
know you
no,
just have to
true,
keep going, keep
true.
moving forward.
We have a couple of comments. So someone says Rupert is the only man for the job. Farage has sold us out already. Thanks, Rupert, for taking action, and thanks Tusi for airing him. So I mean, there's a point to be made there. A lot of people are just fed up of getting their kind of hopes up. Again, I can talk about 2019. But Boris, people knew he's not going to be perfect, but people were like, okay, Boris is saying the right things, he could do it, and you know, even recently and everything else. So I think this is one of the biggest things that you and your movement and people behind it should focus on, so people don't get random hopes or like empty promises. Is that one of the things you're going to be focusing on? More honesty.
Well, I don't think cults ever succeed, Maya. What we need is a movement of people who share the same objective, and that's very different. A cult relies on a very small number of people, and I want this to rely on a lot of people and a collective vision, not a small number of elitists. This is about returning, because democracy is very fragile, and I think our democracy is in danger of disappearing. So this is about rescuing our democracy. Democracy is not a normal form of government. An autocracy is. So what we don't want to do is go to a dictatorial element. What we want to do is let's re-inject some democracy, and a movement does just that. Indeed, the Labour Party started as a movement. So I'm not that I
Yeah.
want to be a socialist in any way, but I think a movement is
Yeah.
the right structure today, and a
Yeah.
movement can then influence for the better. Setting up a
Yeah.
political party is just a power play in a way, and this is not a political party. This is about saving Britain, and that's what we want
Yeah.
to achieve.
And actually, you made a good point about Labour. Whatever we say about Labour and their history and even the current version of the party, one of the strength when it comes to Labour was that it started as a movement. Not again, we're not saying that directly your thing is going to tomorrow become a political party, but it's simply about the fact that when it starts as a movement, it actually prevents a cult creation. You know, again, you can say a lot about Labour. They've never actually been a cult. You know, they've had their moments with Jeremy Corbyn, but you know, they were never like some sort of a big cult machine. Their ideology.
Well, I'm not sure I agree with you. I think Tony Blair arguably could have been described as a cult.
But no, only the people at the top.
Seeing him outside number 10 with things can only get better, blaring away from inside,
Yeah.
with his sort of group of cronies around him. I mean, he's single-handedly done more damage to this country than almost any other human being.
Yes.
So I'm not sure. I'm not sure you're quite right. I think Labour started as a movement, but ended as a
Well,
cult. And,
the thing,
and
yes,
what do we describe Keir Starmer as? I just describe him as a deeply unpleasant, duplicitous human being. So
yeah,
where do we go from here? We need change.
No, I agree with you, but it's just on a technical level, technicalities. Blair turned Downing Street and the national politics into a cult. When it came to the actual Labour Party, they could be short term it's a cult, but actually moved on. They moved on from Blair as well. But I agree with you. The damage that Blair and
we
his
had all that nonsense,
cultists.
Cool Britannia, and all that other rubbish, didn't we? So if you remember, that was all part of the cultist agenda.
True.
I just want people to be able to live freely and enjoy their lives in a sensibly governed minimal state. That's what
basically,
we need.
yeah. Don't thread on me.
The state is bad, the individual is good. That's what we want, Maya. Freedom.
Absolutely, I agree. Finally, you mentioned obviously the other parties as well. Ben Habib launched a new party this morning, Advance UK. Will you also be talking to people like him in terms of like whether they want to join this movement and support the movement?
Well, he didn't actually launch a new party. I think he's got a party. It was called
renamed
the Integrity Party.
Yeah.
He's now called it Advance UK or something like that. I think he announced. I've been talking to Ben, and I think we share many things in common. But intellectually, the difference between the two of us was I felt that it was right to set up a movement and unite people around a movement. He wanted a political party. That was the essence of the intellectual difference between us. That doesn't mean we don't get on and we don't share the same objectives. And I think he's a very clever, decent man. But we couldn't agree on the next step. Now, that doesn't mean to say that he's right, he's wrong, and I'm right, or he's right and I'm wrong. I think that was just a difference of opinion, and we respect each other, but we're going about it in a different way. And don't think he's set up a new party. I think he's got a party. He's not got any of the actual electoral approvals that you need. So I think he's got his own group of people with him. But look, I mean, I would have loved to see Ben in Parliament with me, but he's not. And the truth of the matter is that you've got to be inside the belly of the beast, Maya, to be able to make a difference and land punches and change the way in which we're governed. As you quite rightly say, we've stood up, we've said what we think, and shock horror. The truth being spoken in Parliament is almost as powerful as anything that can be done. It's not a matter of being clever, it's a matter of speaking the truth. And the truth shines in on quite how poor the entire parliamentary system is. And that's not just the MPs, that goes for the entire structure around it. It's too big and it's not fit for purpose. So that's what the movement hopefully will help change.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Rupert Lowe, and best of luck. And of course, we'll keep you guys up to date with all the developments when it comes to this. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on, man. Okay.
Thank you.